knew something was wrong the second I heard the soft chime from Marcus's iPad, a sound that didn't belong in my quiet bedroom at 11:47 p.m. The man was supposed to be thousands of feet in the air on his way to Chicago, taking that business trip he'd been stressing over all week. But the iPad, sitting on my dresser like it had a heartbeat, lit up with a message preview that made my stomach drop before I even touched it. The winning team, $, fire emoji. Y'all ready for the beach tomorrow? Jasmine's ankle's already swollen, LOL. My own sister's name, in a group chat I'd never seen before. And what froze me wasn't the notification. It was the photo beneath it. A screenshot preview. Blue ocean, palm trees. Someone's tanned foot with a neon sandal kicked up like they didn't have a care in the world. I didn't want to swipe. Lord knows I didn't want to swipe. But my finger moved anyway. And that's when the whole damn world tilted. There they were. Marcus, Jasmine, my mama Regina, and my daddy Clinton, smiling in a selfie like the cast of some twisted vacation special, all of them wearing matching leis. Marcus had his hand wrapped around Jasmine's waist, her belly peeking just enough to hint at something I'd never been told. And my mama, she was throwing up a shaka sign like she just won a radio contest. They were in Hawaii, together, while I'd spent the evening planning our anniversary dinner alone, reheating leftovers and convincing myself Marcus's moodiness was just stress and not him falling out of love with me. But it wasn't love he was falling into with Jasmine. Scrolling was like drowning. The chat was worse than any horror movie I'd ever seen because every villain had my blood or my ring on their finger. Jasmine. Can't wait till she signs that deed. She still don't suspect nothing. Marcus. Soon as it's done, we pull the equity and bounce. That house is a gold mine. Mama. Keisha always been the slow one. Just keep being sweet to her when y'all get back. Daddy. Make sure she don't see that loan application till after it's approved. And then the one that tore straight through the last soft part of me. Marcus. Baby girl kicking like crazy tonight. Can't wait till we make our home once this all done. Our home. My house. Aunt May's house. The one piece of love she left me after a childhood of watching everybody else get poured into, like I was a cracked cup not worth fixing. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't cry. Couldn't scream. It was like my body sealed itself shut because any sound I made would shatter the walls around me. My fiancé was cheating on me with my own sister. My family was helping, and they were planning to use my house, my inheritance, my safety net, to carry out the betrayal. I sat on the edge of the bed, the iPad glowing like it was whispering, "Wake up, girl. They've been playing you." And for the first time in years, I listened to that voice Aunt May always told me lived inside me, the one that sounded like truth, not desperation. I clicked deeper into the files. That's when I saw the loan documents, my signature, except it wasn't mine. My whole body went cold, the kind of cold that settles into your bones and makes you feel like you'll never be warm again. It was real. The betrayal wasn't an idea or a fear. It was paperwork. It was signed, sealed, submitted. They were already stealing from me. I forced myself to breathe, slow and controlled, because I knew one thing with certainty. If I broke down right then, I'd stay broken, and I was not about to give any of them that victory. My hand shook, but my mind grew sharp, razor sharp. All the softness in me felt like it slid off my body and hit the floor. What was left was something else, something quiet and calculating. I took photos, screenshots, forwarded everything to my private email, my lawyer contact list, my cloud backup, triple saved like I knew this storm needed proof. Then I locked Marcus's iPad and placed it gently on my dresser, like nothing inside it had detonated the life I thought I was building. I stood in that dark room, staring at the place where Marcus had kissed my forehead that morning, telling me he loved me more than life. And I felt nothing. Not hate, not sadness, nothing. Just a growing, steady heat inside my chest. Not rage, clarity. I whispered into the silence, "Y'all messed with the wrong woman." But even with that clarity, my legs felt weak walking toward the hallway. I flipped on the light, needing something bright, something real, something mine. And that's when I heard myself, my own shaky breath catching like a cracked record. Because what came next, what I found next, made everything even worse. The front door was slightly cracked open. Marcus had left the house in too much of a hurry, and sitting right by the entrance was a thick envelope with my name on it in Jasmine's handwriting. The moment I picked it up, my fingertips tingling with fear and fury, I knew this wasn't just more betrayal. It was a warning, or a setup. Or maybe both. I swallowed hard, slid my thumb under the seal, and pulled out the papers. What I read made sweat break out across the back of my neck. They were planning to move faster than I thought. Much faster. Too fast for me to breathe, let alone think. My heart slammed once, twice, because the document inside wasn't just about the loan. It was about eviction. My eviction from my own house. And the date printed at the bottom? Tomorrow. I staggered back, the world spinning. They weren't just betraying me. They were coming for me. All of them. And they'd be home in 2 days. 2 days to uproot my life. 2 days before their plan tightened around me like a trap. But I knew something they didn't know. Something powerful. I wasn't trapped. Not anymore. I folded the paper slowly, my pulse suddenly steady and cold. If they thought I was going to crumble, they were dead wrong. Because this time, I wasn't the slow one. I was the silent one, the dangerous one. And they had no idea what was coming.
I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I sat at the kitchen table with every light in the house blazing, the betrayal document spread out in front of me like puzzle pieces from hell. My heartbeat felt like it had moved up into my throat, steady but heavy, and every time I blinked, I saw that damn group chat. My sister laughing behind my back, Marcus holding her like she was the prize he'd worked his whole life for, and my parents calling me the slow one. It was almost funny, in a cruel way. They really believed I was so desperate for love that I'd just sign anything handed to me, that I'd hold on to Marcus no matter how he treated me, that I needed them. They underestimated me down to the bone. But the eviction notice, that part still had my hands trembling a little. They weren't playing petty anymore. They were coming for my whole life. Around 2 a.m., I opened Aunt May's old recipe tin, the one she told me as a kid never to lose. What nobody else knew was that it held more than handwritten recipes for peach cobbler and gumbo. Under the index cards was a small flash drive. May used to work in collections and kept detailed records of everything, every inheritance paper, every deed transfer, every notarized update to her estate. She'd given it to me 2 years before she died, and I'd tucked it away without ever needing it. Until tonight. I plugged it into my laptop, praying the file still worked. The screen loaded slowly, the progress wheel turning like it had arthritis. When the documents finally opened, I exhaled for the first time in hours. There it was, the deed, the insurance policy, Aunt May's will, all clearly naming me as sole heir with the restriction clause that explicitly barred any transfer of ownership to anyone not blood related unless approved by the estate attorney. Marcus wasn't blood, meaning whatever forged loan he and my family filed was legally a ticking bomb. Thank you, Aunt May. I touched the screen like she could hear me. Just knowing she had protected me from beyond the grave brought a soft ache into my chest, one of the only tender feelings I'd had all night. But tenderness wasn't going to save me. Strategy would. At 8:05 a.m. sharp, after watching the sunrise spill gold across the kitchen tiles, I put on my work clothes, not because I was going in, but because routine steadied me. Dark high-waisted slacks, a fitted cream blouse, and my small gold hoops. I brushed my hair into a sleek bun, applied my light makeup, and looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection was tired, but focused, determined, sharper than I'd ever seen myself. "Let's handle this," I told the woman staring back at me. I grabbed the evidence file, my laptop, and Marcus's iPad and drove straight to the attorney's office. I didn't call ahead, didn't schedule a meeting. I walked in like a woman dragging a storm behind her. The receptionist, a soft-spoken older lady with silver braids, looked up at me. "Good morning, ma'am. Do you have an appointment?" "No," I said, "but I have fraud, forgery, and $1 million property at stake. Somebody's gonna see me." 10 minutes later, a partner named Bill Anders, tall, thin, and looking like he survived on caffeine fumes, sat across from me in his glass-walled office. The moment I laid out the screenshots, his eyes sharpened. The moment I showed him the forged loan documents, his jaw tightened. The moment he realized there was a fetus involved, Marcus's child with my sister, he leaned back so slowly I thought he'd fall out the chair. "Ms. Turner, your fiancé, your family, they've committed several serious crimes. If you want to press charges, I want to protect myself first. Then we'll handle the rest." He nodded, wise. We went through every detail for 3 long hours. He documented everything, every message, every date, every signature discrepancy. When he asked how I got Marcus's iPad, I told him the truth. He left it by accident. "Convenient mistake," he murmured. "No," I replied, staring out the window. "A blessing." When we finally wrapped up, he leaned forward. "My professional advice," he said, "move fast. If they're planning to take possession of the house while you're still here, the danger is not hypothetical." Danger. I knew it, felt it, all night. I left the office walking slower than I had gone in, not because I was tired, but because the plan forming in my mind was no longer a theory. It was a blueprint, and I had 48 hours. Back at home, I opened every closet, every cabinet, every drawer. I took out all my valuables, small jewelry boxes, the old family Bible May had left me, my degrees, my journals. The scent of the house, the wood polish May always used, wrapped around me, reminding me this place wasn't just wood and paint. It was history. It was love. But love doesn't stand still when danger is coming. I took out my phone and dialed the number on the business card a recruiter had handed me months ago at a pharmaceutical conference in D.C., an offer I'd turned down out of loyalty to the life I thought I was building with Marcus. When he answered on the 3rd ring, I introduced myself and said simply, "Is that London position still open?" He paused, then laughed lightly. "We actually just had someone drop out last week. If you can relocate within the month, the role is yours." "I can relocate in a week, maybe less." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't running. This was ascending. After the call, I went to the master bedroom and looked at all the things Marcus left behind. Rolex watches, designer shoes, expensive cologne bottles. I remembered how proud he always looked, showing them off, bragging about being a self-made businessman. Self-made my ass. Every luxury he owned came from me opening my wallet and closing my mouth. That era was over. I pulled out trash bags, I opened donation boxes, I separated everything he didn't deserve to keep.
And then, in the back of the closet, behind a shoebox filled with worthless property brochures, I found something wrapped in a silk scarf. Aunt May's pearls. The same pearls Mama claimed I must have lost. My mother had stolen these from me, hidden them, lied about them. Again. I fastened them around my neck, and in that moment, something inside me clicked into place. Firm, unbreakable. By midnight, I'd filled 2 suitcases, 3 storage bins, and 5 trash bags. I listed the house with a corporate investor recommended by my attorney, someone who could close fast, no questions asked. And then, around 2:14 a.m., when I finally lay down, exhausted but resolute, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. Jasmine, in a bikini, her round belly out, Marcus standing behind her, both of them holding up the shh finger to their lips. My hands went ice cold, because in the back of the photo, carved in the sand, were the words, "See you soon, sis." My breath hitched. They were watching me, and they were coming home sooner than I'd been.
I stared at that photo so long the screen dimmed twice. Jasmine's smirk burned into my mind. Marcus's hands spread across her swollen stomach like he'd claimed something that belonged to me. And that message in the sand, "See you soon, sis," felt less like a taunt and more like a threat. It told me one thing, loud and clear. They weren't just planning something. They were watching me closely enough to feel confident. But they had no idea who they were dealing with now. I forced myself to breathe through the panic rising in my throat. "Stay focused," I whispered. "Don't give them the fear they're fishing for." Still, I couldn't shake the unease, crawling under my skin. Why send a message like that in the middle of the night? Why reveal their hand early? Unless they were testing me, trying to see if I'd take the bait and react? No, not today. I powered off my phone, sealed my suitcases, and went back to scanning every inch of the house. If they planned on coming back early, I needed to accelerate everything. By morning, I typed up a list titled The Scorched Earth Plan. It had 4 columns: sell, donate, destroy, and take with me. I meant every category. Marcus's prized watches? On the sell list. The $5,000 leather jacket he bragged about? Donate. The stack of fake business plans he used to convince me he was some up-and-coming mogul? Destroy. Preferably with fire, but I settled for shredding. But the treasure category, the take with me list, was small. Just the pearls, my documents, my journals, the locket May gave me with her initials engraved inside, and a few sentimental books. Everything else? They could sift through the ashes of their own scheme and see what was left. Around noon, I drove to a high-end resale shop across town with a trunk full of Marcus's things. The owner, a tall woman with locks tied in a low bun, looked inside the trunk and let out a long whistle. "You sure you want to part with all this?" she asked. "More than sure," I said flatly. She nodded slowly, her eyes flicking to my expression as if reading a deeper story. "You look like you're freeing yourself." Something like that. By the time she tallied everything, she handed me a sick envelope. Cash. No questions asked. I didn't even count it until I got home. Almost 10 grand. Proof of how much I had poured into a man who never planned to pour anything back. When I walked back through the front door, my phone buzzed with a message from the corporate investor who'd agreed to buy the house. Offer accepted. Cash transfer in 24 hours, closing scheduled in 36. It was happening. Fast. Exactly how I needed it. I curled my fingers into the pearls resting against my collarbone. I could almost hear May's voice. "Move in silence, baby. Let the snakes hiss at the door while you slip out the back." At 3 p.m., I sat in my living room and recorded videos of each room, proof of the house's condition in case Marcus tried to claim I destroyed property. At this point, I trusted nobody with my silence or my lack of evidence.
Halfway through recording, I heard a noise outside. Footsteps. Slow. Too close to my front door. I froze. Then, the doorbell rang. My stomach twisted. I peeked through the blinds carefully. A delivery driver stood on the porch with a clipboard. My heart thudded painfully, but relief washed over me as I cracked open the door. "Package for Keisha Turner." I signed, closed the door, and stared at the box. No return label, no company logo. The box was light. Too light. My chest tightened again as I opened it carefully. Inside was a Hawaiian keychain, a plastic hula girl, and a small note. "Tick-tock, sweetheart." My hands shook, but not from fear. This time, it was something darker, steadier. They weren't just bold. They were sloppy, leaving physical evidence, sending threats across state lines. They didn't realize they were handing me more ammunition with every stunt. I photographed everything: the box, the note, the keychain, every angle. Then I placed the items in the "don't touch" pile for the lawyer. By 5 p.m., I'd moved on to cleaning out the attic. The sun had dipped low, washing the neighborhood in a warm, burnt orange glow. I climbed the wooden ladder slowly, clutching a flashlight, scanning every dusty corner. Up there, I found boxes intact from May's old life: photo albums, letters, newspaper clippings from her years working at the community bank. I sat cross-legged, flipping through pages carefully. I found a photo of her at 25, smiling wide, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. The same pearls around her neck. "Wish you were here," I whispered. "You'd know exactly what to say." As if answering me, a soft creak echoed from below. The front door? No. The stairs. I snapped the attic light off and held my breath. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Inside my house. My pulse thrashed in my ears. I pressed my hand over my mouth and listened. The floorboards moved closer, whining under someone's weight. My mind raced. Security alarm was off. Doors were locked, but the back window in the laundry room didn't always latch properly. I had forgotten to check it that morning. A cold wave went through me. I crawled toward the attic ladder silently, bracing myself, ready to scream for help if needed. Then I heard it. "Keisha, it's Miss Lorna next door. You in here? The light's on and your car's outside?" I nearly collapsed with relief. I hurried down the ladder and practically stumbled into her arms. "Baby, I didn't mean to scare you," she said, eyes wide. "I saw a strange man parked down the street earlier. Just wanted to check on you." My spine tingled. "What kind of car?" I asked carefully. She frowned. "No, baby, but he sat there a long while, then drove off slow." The walls felt like they were closing in for a moment. "Thank you," I managed. "I am fine, really." She squeezed my hands. "You call me if anything don't feel right, you hear? Don't make me come back over here with my skillet." I forced a laugh, hugged her, and watched her leave. But the smile dropped the second the door clicked shut. They had someone watching the house. The only question now was, were they watching to see if I suspected something, or to make sure I didn't escape? My decision was instant. I was leaving tonight. No more waiting for the money transfer. No more 48 hours. No more hesitation. I grabbed my phone, hands tight around it, and dialed my attorney. "Bill," I said, voice low but steady. "We need to push everything tonight. I think my family hired someone to watch my house." There was a pause. "How soon can you leave the property?" he asked. I looked around the living room, once filled with hope, now packed with boxes and ghosts. I said, "Give me an hour." But before he could respond, my phone buzzed with a new notification. A live shared location request. From Marcus. My breath hitched. The pin on the map was moving fast, towards my house. And the estimated arrival time? 27 minutes. They were coming early, much earlier than anyone told me, and I wasn't ready. Not yet, but I would be.
For a good 10 seconds, I just stared at Marcus's location pin, crawling across the screen like a shark fin slicing through dark water. Each mile he closed tightened something deep in my chest, but not in the way they probably expected. This wasn't fear. This was a countdown. A clock striking midnight on the version of me they all thought still existed. I snapped into motion. I called Bill back. "They're on the way," I said. "Not in 2 days, not tomorrow, now." He didn't even hesitate. "Get out, immediately. I'll handle the paperwork. You need to be off the property before they arrive." "Done." I hung up and moved fast. Faster than I ever had. I grabbed my suitcases, my file folder, and the 2 storage bins with my real history in them. May's letters, my journals, my documents. I shoved them into my car. My keys were already in my pocket. Every step I took, every breath I pulled in, I felt my heartbeat sinking into something controlled, sharp, almost chilling. They thought they were pulling up on the old Keisha, the one who played nice, apologized first, loved without checking the price tag on loyalty. But that woman had died the second I opened that group chat. As I did one last sweep of the house, I paused in the den. Sunlight streamed across the framed photo on the wall, the only one of Aunt May holding me as a baby. My parents had never hung a picture of me in their home, not one. But May, she'd hung dozens in hers. She loved me loudly, proudly, completely. I took her photo down and placed it gently into my tote bag. As I headed toward the door, my phone buzzed again. "Marcus, parking now. Door better be open." My pulse spiked, but my feet never slowed. I locked the door behind me firmly and stepped into the driveway. Then I saw it. The car Miss Lorna described, a black SUV with Florida plates, was turning onto my street. Marcus had sent his location, probably thinking he could rattle me into cracking. He had no idea I was already 10 steps ahead. I slipped behind the wheel, started the engine, and backed out before the SUV even reached the curb. As I drove down the block, I glanced in my mirror. The tinted window SUV rolled to a stop in front of my house. 3 people stepped out. Marcus, Jasmine, and my mother, Regina. Her hands were on her hips, scanning the house like she owned it. Marcus walked right up to the door and jiggled the handle, confused, then agitated, then furious. I watched him pound on the door, shouting something I couldn't hear from a distance. My mother cupped her hands around her mouth and yelled something too, her whole posture radiating indignation like I had wronged them. The delusion almost made me laugh. Jasmine, heavily pregnant, leaned against the SUV, scrolling her phone, unbothered. They looked like a circus act in my driveway. Good. Let them perform. I didn't wait to see more. I turned the corner and drove straight to the bank to finalize the wire transfer for my new London position's upfront bonus. Every minute mattered now. Inside the bank, the air was cool and quiet. Such a stark contrast to the chaos I just left behind. As the teller completed my international wire paperwork, I received a rapid-fire string of texts. "Marcus, what the hell is wrong with you? Mama, you bet not be acting a fool. Open this door right now." Daddy, surprisingly. "Keisha, what's going on? Where are you? Call me." Jasmine, "Wow, real mature. We came early to surprise you, and this how you act?" A surprise. They were truly committed to delusion. I silenced my phone. When I finished at the bank, I drove to a women's shelter and donated every box of wedding decor Marcus had insisted I buy. The volunteers hugged me like they knew. Maybe they did. Women can read pain like text. From there, I headed to the resale auction lot where I had arranged earlier to sell Marcus's precious luxury belongings, the ones he flashed to seem important.
Watching a stranger tally them like scrap metal filled me with a dark, cleansing satisfaction. It'll all be gone in 2 hours. You'll get to deposit tonight. Perfect. I checked the clock. Marcus's location pin was still at my house, which meant they were still locked out, which meant they were panicking. And that was delicious. Feeling a rare calm settling into my bones, I went back home, but not to stay, just to finish dismantling the last pieces of their narrative. I parked 2 houses down, walked up the sidewalk with a blank expression, and watched from a distance. I saw my father pacing the driveway, frustrated, confused. It hit me then. He might not have known the full scope, but he had known enough. Enough to be dangerous. Enough to hurt me. Mama stood on the porch banging on the door like she was the one paying the mortgage. Marcus was on the phone shouting at someone, probably the loan officer they conspired with. Jasmine was eating pineapple out of a container like she wasn't standing in the middle of a betrayal scene. Then Mama spotted me. She stomped down the driveway, finger wagging like she owned the air. "Keisha, what is wrong with you? Open this door right now. You got us all out here looking crazy." I inhaled slowly, stepped closer, and said, "That's not my door anymore." The silence that hit was electric. What you mean?" Daddy asked, voice cracking. "I sold the house," I said simply. "Closed this morning." Their faces fell in perfect choreography. Jasmine dropped her container. Marcus sputtered. "Sold? You sold it? Are you insane? My paperwork." "Your forged paperwork is now evidence in an active legal case, but good luck explaining that to the bank." Mama lunged forward. "You lying. You wouldn't dare sell." "Yes, I would. And I did." She slapped her palm against her chest, scandalized. "You ungrateful! You stole May's pearls." I snapped before she could finish. "Don't talk to me about gratitude." Her mouth dropped open. Then slowly, she looked at my neck. The pearls gleamed against my skin. For the first time since childhood, I saw fear flash in her eyes. Real fear. "I'm leaving," I said quietly. "Leaving where?" Jasmine shouted. "Far from here." Marcus stepped forward. "You can't just walk away. That house isn't yours. Never was, never will be." He clenched his jaw. "We're not done." "Oh, yes, we are." And then I dropped the final bomb. "You should check your email in about 5 minutes." Their confusion was priceless. As I turned and walked back toward my car, Mama yelled after me, "Keisha, Keisha, you get back here." But her voice faded as I got inside the car and locked the door. Trembling, not from fear, but from release, I opened my laptop. Scheduled email sent. A mass blast to our extended family, Marcus's boss, Jasmine's church friends, my parents' pastor, the HOA board, the loan officers, the bank's fraud department. Screenshots, forged signatures, affair photos, group chat messages, everything. All sent, all documented, all irreversible. My hand shook, but my breath came steady as I started the engine. Just as I pulled away, my phone exploded with new notifications, dozens, hundreds, a storm of fallout already beginning. But before I could drive off completely, I saw movement in my rearview mirror. Mama's face, twisted in pure, unfiltered rage. Her mouth forming one word, "You'll regret this." But I didn't. Not for a second. I hit the gas, and I didn't look back, not knowing that the fallout was only just beginning. Not knowing that the next message I'd receive would change everything and strike at a part of me I didn't even know was still breakable.
The evening after Keisha's email detonated across her family's social circles, the fallout spread faster than anyone could avoid. In neighborhood chats, prayer lines, and community gossip, Keisha's name came up again and again, first in shock, then in admiration. People who had suspected her family's favoritism or Marcus's too polished charm finally saw the truth. But none of the praise softened what the conspirators were facing. Regina and Clinton's world unraveled, almost immediately. At church, their pastor, normally gentle to a fault, pulled them aside and suggested they take a break to reflect. Committee roles were taken away. Friends who once bragged about Sunday dinners with them now crossed the street to avoid conversation. When the bank froze accounts connected to the forged loan application, Regina tried to insist they were victims of a misunderstanding, but the digital trail told a different story. With overdue mortgage payments piling up and no savings left, the foreclosure notice arrived like a verdict. Clinton's pride crumbled first. He broke down crying at the kitchen table. Regina blamed everyone but herself. Keisha, the bank, even Jasmine, never acknowledging her own role. Packing up their belongings into cardboard boxes was a humiliation neither had imagined they would ever suffer. Jasmine's fall was more dramatic. The once pampered golden child found herself whispered about everywhere she went. Friends she'd bragged to went silent. Her workplace discarded her under the excuse of company reputation concerns. And then came the emotional blow she wasn't prepared for, the miscarriage brought on by stress and anxiety. For the first time in her life, no one rushed to comfort her or clean up her mess. She moved back in with her parents, right as the foreclosure eviction went through, leaving all three of them displaced, exposed, and defeated. Marcus's downfall was the most severe. His attempt to present himself as a victim in court collapsed under the weight of chat logs, forged signatures, and money trail evidence. The judge sentenced him to federal prison, and any illusions of his developer lifestyle evaporated the moment he put on a prison jumpsuit. Days of mopping floors replaced days of bragging over champagne. When Jasmine stopped writing and no one visited, it slowly dawned on him that he had never been loved by the people he betrayed Keisha for. He had simply been another tool in their manipulation, just as they had been tools for him. Meanwhile, Keisha's life unfolded in a completely different direction. London welcomed her gently. Her small flat felt cozy, with warm wooden beams and a view of a quiet street where neighbors greeted her kindly. Her job was challenging in the best way, surrounded by colleagues who valued her skills and treated her with respect. She healed slowly, in pieces, during quiet mornings with tea, during long walks by the Thames where she finally felt air fill her lungs without heaviness. She rebuilt herself on her own terms. One evening, her phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. The wording was formal, clearly typed by someone else but dictated by her father. He was asking for a loan, just enough, he said, for them to get back on their feet. Keisha read it once, then again. She set the phone down for several minutes before finally typing a simple, final reply. No, I wish you peace, but I will not fund the consequences of your choices. Take care. She blocked the number and stepped outside into the crisp, countryside air. Her new partner was tending to the small garden, looking up with a warm, genuine smile, the kind that didn't hide betrayal behind it. Everything all right? He asked softly. Keisha slipped her arms around him, feeling safe in a way she never had before. Yes, she said. Everything is exactly where it needs to be, and for the first time in a long, painful journey, she truly meant it. I thought moving across an ocean would put enough distance between me and the chaos I left behind, but pain has a way of slipping through cracks you didn't know were open. London had become my refuge, my breathing space, but every so often the past tried to claw its way back to me.
And part 6 of that chapter came late one evening, just as the sky turned a soft lavender outside my window. I'd just finished a long shift, my feet aching from standing all day, when my coworker, Charlotte, insisted we grab dinner. She said I needed a proper British meal, which turned out to be fish and chips with far too much vinegar. We laughed over the soggy fries, and for the first time in years, I felt a kind of ease that didn't require looking over my shoulder. When I got home, though, something felt off. Not threatening, just strange. A package sat against my door. There was no return address, no sender's name, just my name, written in handwriting I immediately recognized. Jasmine's. My stomach tightened. I held my breath as I carried it inside, placing it on the kitchen table like it might detonate. For several minutes, I just stared at it, my hand hovering but not touching. Finally, I sliced it open. Inside was a single journal, Aunt May's. I froze. Aunt May's handwriting spilled across the first page, her familiar looping cursive spelling out my name like a tender whisper. "From my Keisha, when you need me the most." My throat tightened, tears blurring the ink. I remembered asking Mama about this journal years ago. She'd sworn she couldn't find it. Now I knew exactly where it had been, hidden, hoarded, stolen, like everything else Regina took pride in keeping from me. Beneath the journal was a note from Jasmine. Her handwriting was slightly shaky, the loops messier than usual. "Keisha, I know I have no right to ask for anything. I wasn't ready to carry the weight of what we did. I found this in Mama's dresser when we were packing after the eviction. I didn't read it. I just thought it belonged to you. I am not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to return something that wasn't mine." The old Keisha, the one desperate for family, desperate for scraps of love, might have felt a thread of sympathy. But that version of me died the moment I discovered the winning team chat. Still, something about her returning Aunt May's journal felt like a final cracked door closing between us. I opened to a random page. Aunt May had written a memory of the two of us baking sweet potato pie together, signing off with, "You will build a life bigger than anyone ever expected for you. Don't let small people shrink your spirit." I pressed my palm over those words, feeling the warmth of her love somehow still alive on the page. The next morning, I brought the journal with me as I traveled out to the countryside cottage where I'd started spending weekends with Daniel, my new partner, whose quiet strength grounded me. He met me at the gate, brushing loose curls from my face with gentle fingers. "You look like you've been crying," he said softly. "Bad day?" "Complicated day," I admitted. Inside the cottage, nestled by the window overlooking the rolling fields, I told him everything. About the package, the journal, the note. He didn't try to fix it, didn't rush to judge. He simply listened, his hand wrapped around mine, steady and warm. "It seems like closure trying to reach you. The kind you get to define." I leaned against him, exhausted but lighter. "I don't want my past creeping back into my life." "Then don't let it," he whispered. Later that night, I stepped outside. The air was crisp, the stars sharp against the dark sky. I held Aunt May's journal to my chest. For the first time, I didn't think of my family with anger. I thought of them with distance, like characters in a story I had finally stopped living inside. Just as I turned to go back in, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A blocked number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but when the voicemail notification popped up, something told me to press play. The voice on the other end made my blood run cold. Raw, broken, barely recognizable, but unmistakably my mother's. "Keisha, baby, something's happened." And then the message cut off. The moment I heard my mother's voice, thin, trembling, stripped of all the arrogance she once wrapped herself in, I felt something inside me twist. Not sympathy,
not fear, just a kind of stunned stillness, like someone had thrown the stone into a lake I'd finally managed to calm. I replayed the voicemail 3 more times, trying to catch something I missed, but the message was cut off right after those last words. Keisha, baby, something's happened. I stood in the cold outside Daniel's cottage, the night pressing against my skin. The fields were quiet, the world peaceful, but my mind was suddenly loud with every buried memory of my mother's voice, scolding, dismissing, belittling. She had never called me baby unless she wanted something, and after everything she'd done, after how she'd watched me get emotionally gutted and tried to take the house Aunt May left me, I couldn't imagine what could possibly push her to speak with that tone. I walked back into the cottage, still clutching my phone. Daniel was in the kitchen boiling water for tea, his back turned, humming softly. When he glanced over and saw my face, the humming stopped. What happened? I held the phone out. My mother. She left a voicemail. He pulled out a chair for me and I sank into it. He hit play, listened, and when the message cut off, he looked at me with quiet concern. You don't have to call back, he said gently. You don't owe them access to your peace. I know, I whispered, staring at the screen. But what if it's serious? He came around the table and knelt beside me. And what if it's another manipulation? I closed my eyes, because that was exactly the question clawing inside my chest. My family didn't reach out unless it benefited them, and usually harmed me. They'd betrayed me with a precision that could only be described as intentional. They didn't lose me by accident. They threw me away like a convenience. Still, something's happened. The vagueness gnawed at me. I decided to sleep on it, but sleep refused to come. I tossed under the blankets, eyes wide in the darkness. Around 3 a.m., unable to take the tension anymore, I slipped out of bed and opened Aunt May's journal. The pages smelled faintly of lavender, her favorite scent. As I read, something shifted in me. She wrote about resilience without revenge, strength without cruelty. She wrote about claiming your own sky even when storms raged around you. And in the middle of a paragraph about forgiveness, Aunt May had underlined one sentence 3 times. I stared at those words until the letter stopped swimming. Listening, not returning. Maybe that was my answer. I stepped outside again, the cold morning air brushing my skin awake. I dialed my mother's number, and to my shock, she picked up on the first ring, as if she'd been holding the phone in her hand all night. Keisha? She breathed, her voice hoarse. What happened? I asked, keeping my tone level. There was a shaky inhale. It's your father. My stomach tightened, not out of love, but out of anticipation. What about him? We were staying at a cousin's place, but he collapsed yesterday. Heart. Her voice cracked. They don't think he'll be able to work again. He's asking for you. The words hit me like a cold slap, not because I felt devastated, but because of the cruel echo of memory. My father signing his name under the forged loan papers Marcus created, probably smirking while he did it. My father pushing me aside to help Jasmine. My father telling me I was too sensitive when I cried. My father standing with his arms crossed while Marcus and Jasmine paraded their betrayal in private messages he helped orchestrate. Keisha? My mother whispered when I didn't respond. Why are you calling me? I finally said. After everything you did,
Why would you think I'd step back into that? There was a long silence, not angry, not defensive, just defeated. Because Jasmine won't talk to us anymore, and we have no one else. There it was. The truth. Not love, not regret, just desperation. Something inside me hardened, like steel cooling into shape. I'm sorry he's sick, but I'm not coming back, I said quietly. Keisha, please. No. I cut in, my voice steady. I built my life out of the ashes you all lit. I'm not stepping back into that fire. Her breath hitched like she might cry. Maybe she did, but I felt nothing but resolve. Before I could end the call, though, her voice came through again, soft, trembling, and somehow carrying a weight I'd never heard before. There's more. Something else happened. Something you need to know. My hand froze over the screen. What are you talking about? I asked slowly. That man, Marcus, he's being released sooner than expected. My entire body went still. And he's been asking about you. A cold ripple slid down my spine, slow, deliberate, like a shadow stretching across a floor. How does he even know where I am? I demanded, heart pounding. That's the thing, she whispered, fear finally creeping into her voice. He got a letter from someone in London. My pulse stopped. Who? And my mother exhaled a name that pulled the ground out from under me. Jasmine.
For a long moment, I couldn't speak. It felt like the air thickened around me, pressing against my chest, making it impossible to breathe. Jasmine, the same sister who had destroyed my engagement, helped betray me, and laughed behind my back with Marcus, the same Marcus who forged my signature, stole my peace, and nearly cost me everything. Jasmine was the one writing letters to him in prison? About me? Why? I whispered, barely able to get the word out. My mother let out a shaky breath. I don't know. I truly don't. But your Aunt Lorraine visited the house before we were evicted. She said she overheard Jasmine talking to someone about wanting to fix things with Marcus. She didn't say much else. But a few days later, we found the letters. Letters? My voice sharpened. Plural? Yes, Mama said quietly. She mails him at least 3. My heart sunk, but another part of me, older, wiser, scarred, clicked into place like armor settling onto bone. What was in them? I asked. She didn't let us read them, but... Mama hesitated. One of the envelopes wasn't sealed all the way. She stopped talking as if afraid of how I'd react. What did it say? I pressed. A swallow, a shaky inhale. She told him where you were living. She mentioned London. She mentioned your job. A tremor ran down my arms. I gripped the phone, knuckles white. She what? She said she felt guilty. She thought if Marcus apologized to you, maybe God would show her mercy for everything she had done. I don't know, Keisha. Your sister hasn't been right since the miscarriage. I closed my eyes, heat and cold battling beneath my skin. Does Jasmine know he's being released early? I asked. No, Mama whispered. I don't think anyone told her. And she's not in a good mental place. She keeps saying she's haunted. By the emails you sent, by Aunt May's pearls, by the look on Marcus's face the last time she visited him. For a second, I almost felt a whisper of pity, but then I remembered the messages in the winning team, the laughter, the mockery, the betrayal, and the pity died. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at my reflection in the dark window, my eyes wide and furious, my breath fogging the glass. "Keisha," Mama said softly, "are you there?" "I'm here," I said, voice steady now, too steady, "and I'm done." I hung up before she could speak another word. When I walked back inside, my hands shaking, Daniel looked up from the sofa. He was reading one of his gardening books, but the moment he saw my face, the book slipped closed. "What happened?" he asked gently, standing. "He knows," I whispered. "Marcus knows I'm in London." His expression shifted instantly, soft concern sharpening into protective alertness. He crossed the room in 2 steps. "How?" he demanded. I swallowed. "Jasmine wrote him letters, told him where I live, my job, maybe more." His jaw tightened. Why would she do that? Guilt or desperation? Or maybe she's just sick in the head. I pressed my palms against my eyes. "And he's getting out early." Daniel took my hands gently, pulling them away from my face. "Look at me," he said firmly. "You are safe. I won't let anything happen to you." I wanted to believe him, truly, but my mind was spinning. What if he comes here? What if he tries something stupid? He lost everything because of me. Men like Marcus, they don't let go of grudges. They cling to them like lifelines. Daniel slipped an arm around me, guiding me to sit down. He stayed close, his presence calm and solid, the only still thing in the storm raging inside my chest. "Then we get ahead of it. We talk to your HR team, your building manager, and the police if it comes to that. You don't face this alone." I leaned into him, trembling. For years, I'd carried everything by myself. The disappointments, the betrayals, the heartbreak, the responsibilities. But Daniel wasn't letting me carry this one alone. Still, one question burned through me. Why would Jasmine betray me again? Why tell Marcus where I was? What did she think would happen? The next day, I found out. I received an email from Jasmine's personal account. At first, I wasn't going to open it, but the subject line stopped me cold. I didn't mean to make things worse. Against my better judgment, I clicked. The email was long, rambling, emotional, inconsistent, but one paragraph at the bottom made my stomach drop. "Marcus told me once that he would never let you forget what you did to him. I thought if you talked to him, maybe he would stop blaming me too. I never thought he would actually try to come find you. Please, Keisha, please be careful." A sudden, dizzying chill crawled through me. He wasn't just angry, he was looking for me. And the worst part of Jasmine's email, the last line barely visible beneath the long ramble, like she wrote it at the last minute but couldn't bring herself to delete it. "I think he blames you for everything, but he blames me even more." That's when the truth hit me like a punch to the ribs. Marcus wasn't just a threat to me. He was a threat to all of us. Before I could even process what to do next, another email came in. No subject line, no sender name. Just 2 words. "See you soon." My blood ran ice cold. And then, someone knocked on my front door.
The knock wasn't loud. It was gentle, almost polite, but it hit me like thunder. My breath froze in my chest. Daniel stiffened beside me on the couch, his arm tightening protectively around my waist, as if he instinctively sensed the shift in the air. Every sound in the cottage seemed to vanish, leaving only that soft, rhythmic tapping echoing in my mind. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Stay here," Daniel whispered. "No," I breathed back, grabbing his arm. "Don't open it." But he stepped forward anyway, slow, deliberate, quiet, like a man approaching a wild animal. The cottage walls felt too thin, too fragile, not built to keep danger out, only built to keep warmth in. My pulse hammered against my neck as Daniel approached the front door. He didn't open it. Instead, he leaned close, peering through the small peephole. I held my breath so tightly my chest ached. Then Daniel let out a sharp exhale, relief, but mixed with confusion. "It's not him," he murmured. My knees nearly buckled. "Then who is it?" I whispered. Daniel turned toward me. "It's a woman, young. She looks distressed." Something in his tone made my stomach twist again. I stepped closer, forcing myself to peer around him and look through the peephole. My heart stopped. It was Jasmine. Her hair was unkempt, falling out of a loose bun. Her clothes looked wrinkled and mismatched, like she'd been wearing the same outfit for days. Her eyes darted around nervously, and she kept glancing over her shoulder as if she expected someone to appear out of the shadows behind her. "What the?" The words escaped me in a whisper. Daniel turned to me. "Do you want me to tell her to leave?" I didn't answer right away. Emotion surged through me. Anger, shock, confusion, and something sharper beneath it. Not sympathy, not yet, but fear. What had driven her across an ocean to my doorstep? As if sensing my hesitation, Jasmine knocked again, this time softer, her voice trembling through the door. "Keisha, please, I know you're in there." Daniel looked at me, waiting. I swallowed hard. "Open it, but keep the chain on." He nodded, unlatching only the top chain and cracking the door open a few inches. Jasmine's face appeared in the narrow gap, eyes wide and wet. "Keisha, oh God, thank God, please, Daniel held up a hand. "You don't step inside, not without her say-so." Jasmine peered past him, her eyes locking onto mine. And in that instant, I saw the truth. Not manipulation, not entitlement, not that golden child arrogance she used like armor. I saw fear. Real fear. "Keisha," she said softly, her voice cracking. "He's coming." I felt every muscle in my body tighten. "Who?" Her breath stuttered. "Marcus." Daniel immediately stiffened. "How close?" "He's not here yet, but he will be. He was supposed to be released next month, but something happened with his case and someone got him out early." She swallowed hard. I told him too much. I didn't understand what I was doing. He was manipulating me, Keisha, like he always does. I swear I didn't know he'd take it this far." I clenched my teeth. "You gave him my address." She looked down, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I know, and I'm so sorry, but Keisha..." She lifted her eyes, bloodshot, terrified. "He thinks you ruined his life, and he blames me for telling you about the fraud. He said that once he deals with you, he's coming for me next." Daniel tensed. "You need to leave." "No," she cried, reaching out before Daniel slammed the door a little harder, stopping her hand from coming inside. "Please, I have nowhere to go. Mom and Dad lost the house. I stayed with a friend, but Marcus found out. I came here because you're the only person he doesn't expect me to run to." A bitter laugh slipped from my throat. "Yeah, because it doesn't make sense, after everything you did." Jasmine nodded slowly, her shoulders shaking. "I know I deserve that. I know I do. But Keisha, please, I'm scared. I didn't think he'd get out early. I didn't think he'd..." Her voice broke into a sob. Daniel looked at me. "You owe her nothing."
He wasn't wrong. But the fear in Jasmine's eyes was unmistakable. I'd seen that kind of terror before, in women who had finally realized the monster they'd been defending wasn't a misunderstood man, but a genuine danger. Still, logic cut through the emotion like a blade. "You brought him right to me," I said, my voice low. "No," she cried. "No, I swear. He doesn't know I'm here. I flew in last night. I didn't use my passport card, just the passport. He doesn't have access to my travel info. I didn't tell anyone where I was going." "How long before he figures it out?" Daniel pressed. Jasmine wiped her face. "I don't know, but it won't take long." A cold dread crawled up my spine. Daniel exhaled and then leaned his forehead against the doorframe, thinking. Finally, he looked at me. "We can't let her stay here," he said, quietly, "but we also can't send her back out there alone if he really is looking for her." Jasmine's breath was visible in the cold air, her shoulders trembling hard. "Please," she whispered, voice splintering. "Please, Keisha, I'm begging you." My hands shook at my sides. My mind spun. Every betrayal flashed in my memory like shards of glass. Her laughing at me in that group chat. Her stealing Marcus. Her helping him forge documents. Her handing him the map to my new life. But beneath all of that, she was still the girl Aunt May used to braid our hair beside. The girl who shared my room, the girl who once cried on my shoulder after her first heartbreak. And for the first time, I saw her not as the golden child, but as a broken woman who finally understood the consequences of the life she helped create. I took a deep breath. Then I stepped closer to the door. "Jasmine," I said quietly, "if you come inside, everything changes. Do you understand that?" She nodded rapidly, swallowing hard. "Yes, I do." "This is the last time I help you." "Yes, I know." I hesitated, my heart pounded, my throat tightened. Then I unlocked the chain. But before I could open the door completely, Jasmine's expression suddenly shifted, her eyes widening in horror as she looked past me into the cottage. Then she whispered, voice trembling so hard it was barely sound. "Keisha, someone followed me."
For a split second, everything inside me went silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence where the world holds its breath. Jasmine's eyes weren't on me anymore. They were fixed over my shoulder, staring into the cottage with a terror so raw it made my blood turn to ice. Daniel reacted first. He grabbed my arm and pulled me behind him, instinctively positioning himself between me and the door. His posture changed. No longer calm, no longer careful. Every muscle in his back went rigid. "Jasmine," he said in a low voice, "who was behind us?" She didn't answer. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes glistened, pupils trembling, breath stuttering into small, terrified gasps. She took one step backward, then another, as if she were physically shrinking from the doorway. I forced myself to turn. The cottage was dim, lit only by the soft amber glow from the lamp beside the couch. Shadows stretched against the walls, long and warped. At first it looked empty. Just the living room, the small kitchenette, the hallway leading to the bedroom. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place, until I saw it. A shadow that didn't belong. A shape, tall, still, faintly outlined against the hallway wall, almost human, almost watching. My voice cracked. "Daniel." He saw it too. He didn't move.
Not forward, not backward. He stayed stone still, eyes locked on the silhouette that froze the air around us. Then the shadow shifted. Just slightly, but enough. Daniel moved so fast I didn't understand the motion at first. He slammed the door shut, locking it in one fluid motion, then pushed Jasmine back from the porch window, out of sight. "Get away from the door," he ordered. I stumbled backward, breath coming in sharp, shallow bursts. My mind reeled. Someone was inside the cottage. Inside! Daniel grabbed my wrist. "Bedroom. Now." But before we could move, we heard it. A soft sound. Barely there. A floorboard creaking. From the hallway. Jasmine gasped, clapping her hand over her mouth outside the door. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Daniel lowered his voice to a whisper, tense and urgent. "Keisha, listen to me carefully. Get to the back room. Lock the door. Do not open it unless I say your name." "No," I whispered back, shaking my head violently. "I'm not leaving you." "Keisha." His voice sharpened. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Real fear. "There is someone in this house, and I need you safe." Another sound. A slow, dragging step. This time closer. My throat closed. My legs felt like water. The shadow in the hallway stretched across the floorboards as the figure moved calmly, silently, without hesitation. Whoever it was, they knew the layout of the cottage. Daniel reached for the fire poker beside the fireplace, gripping it like a weapon. He positioned himself between me and the hallway. "Go," he whispered. "Now." I didn't. I couldn't. My body refused to leave him. Then, a voice came from the hallway. Calm, soft, male. "You're harder to find than I thought." It wasn't Marcus. The voice was deeper, older, a man I'd never heard in my life. Daniel's grip tightened on the poker. "Show yourself," he said. The man stepped out of the shadow. A man in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Shaved head, thick dark coat, gloves. But it was his eyes that chilled me. Sharp, assessing, calculating, a hunter who'd found his trail. He raised both hands slowly, mockingly peaceful. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," he said. Daniel didn't lower the poker. The man's tone stayed measured. "I'm here for Jasmine." My stomach flipped. Jasmine let out a strangled cry outside the door. "No, no, no, please." Daniel spoke through clenched teeth. "You followed her." The man shrugged lightly. "That's my job." "Who are you?" I whispered. He looked at me then, directly, fully, and something changed in his expression. Not kindness, not sympathy, recognition. "You must be Keisha." My blood ran cold. He knew my name. He'd been sent. But not by Marcus. There was no hatred in his eyes, no obsession. This was business. He said, "I'm handling some unfinished matters for a client. Jasmine owes him quite a bit." My breath hitched. "What kind of client?" Daniel demanded. The man smiled. "Not the kind that likes apologies." Jasmine sobbed outside the door. "Keisha, please don't let him take me. Please." Daniel shifted, preparing to fight. The man watched him calmly. "Let's not do anything unnecessary." His gaze slid to me again, sharp, calculating. "And don't worry," he said softly. "I'm not here for you." For a moment, relief flickered in my chest. Then he added, "At least, not today." My heart stopped. Daniel stepped forward. "Get out." The man tilted his head, amusement fading. "Then give me the girl." "No," Daniel said. The man exhaled, disappointed. I was hoping this would be simple. His hand moved to his coat pocket. Daniel tightened his grip on the poker. And in that instant, the front door burst open from outside. Jasmine screamed. Daniel swore. The man froze. I spun toward the doorway, just a time to see the second figure rushing inside. Hood up, face half shadowed, breath heaving, fury radiating off him like wildfire. Marcus. He was here. And he wasn't alone. Everything exploded at once.
Marcus barreled into the cottage like a man with nothing left to lose. His hood was soaked in rain, his eyes wild, unhinged. Nothing like the smooth-talking, visionary real estate developer he used to pretend to be. His focus zeroed in on the man standing inches inside my hallway. "You," Marcus hissed. "You weren't supposed to get here before me." The older man didn't flinch. Your directions were vague, and your timing was sloppy. Marcus snapped. "I said wait. I said I'd handle it." Daniel tightened his stance, poker raised defensively. "Both of you, stay back." Marcus ignored him. His attention was locked on Jasmine, who stood just outside the door, trembling so violently her teeth were chattering. "You ran," Marcus said to her. "You stupid, ungrateful." Jasmine sobbed. "Marcus, please. I'm sorry. Sorry. Marcus stepped closer, his voice sharpening into a razor's edge. "You cost me everything. My job, my money, my reputation, my life." The older man cut in calmly, almost bored. "Your life is still on borrowed time unless we retrieve funds, Marcus. Don't forget why I'm here." Marcus shot him a look, jaw clenched. "I didn't ask for your commentary." "You didn't have to. Your incompetence speaks for itself." Marcus lunged at him with a sound that wasn't human. It was pure rage and humiliation wrapped into a single guttural snarl. Daniel moved before I could scream. He shoved me backward, shielding me with his body as the two men crashed into the hallway wall with a violent thud. The cottage erupted into chaos. Furniture toppled, glass shattered. The older man moved with terrifying precision, dodging Marcus's wild swings with a kind of cold, professional ease. He swept Marcus's legs, slammed him into the floor, and twisted his arm behind his back with a force that made Marcus howl in pain. "Enough," the man said sharply. Marcus kicked wildly, desperate. "Let me go. I can fix this. I can still fix all of it." The man pressed him harder into the floor, barely exerting effort. "You can't even fix your life." Jasmine screamed Marcus's name, but Daniel blocked her from rushing inside. "Don't," Daniel ordered. "He'll drag you down with him." Marcus thrashed again and nearly caught the man's face with his elbow. The man's tone shifted, darker. "You're more trouble than you're worth." Something inside me snapped. I stepped forward. "No." Everyone froze. The man looked up at me, eyebrows raised as if surprised I had found my voice. I steadied myself, even as my knees shook. "Get out, both of you." Marcus stared at me, really stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time since the day he betrayed me. His voice turned pleading, desperate. "Keisha, please, please help me." Those words, the same tone he used when he convinced me to trust him, when he convinced me he loved me, when he convinced me he wasn't a fraud. I let the silence hang in the air for a long moment. Then I said softly, "No one is coming to save you, Marcus, especially not me." His face twisted, rage, grief, humiliation mixing all at once. "This is your fault," he spat. "None of this would have happened if you hadn't—" I cut him off. "No, This happened because you chose greed over love. You chose betrayal over family. You chose to hurt me, and you thought you'd never pay the price. Marcus's breath hitched. The man on top of him, the debt collector, the handler, whatever he was, gave a small nod of respect, almost impressed by my composure. He kept Marcus pinned easily. She's right. Jasmine sobbed harder. Marcus, please just come with me. We can talk. He cut her off with a roar. You ruined everything. And then the older man did something unexpected. He stood. Just stood. Marcus gasped in pain as the pressure lifted, but the man stepped back rather than subdue him again. Daniel tensed. Why did you? The man held up a hand. Because, he said calmly, I got what I came for. I blinked. What? He turned to Jasmine. Her face drained of all color. Your message was very enlightening. Your little voice note? Your confession? My jaw dropped. Jasmine's knees buckled. The man continued, reaching into his coat and pulling out a phone. He played audio at full volume. Jasmine's voice filled the cottage. I know Marcus owes money. I know he can't pay it back. But Keisha's house, if we can get her signature, they'll approve the loan. Then we can escape everything. Just hurry. Marcus is losing it. He's unpredictable. Daniel's eyes widened. Mine did too. The man slipped the phone back into his coat. The client doesn't need you anymore, Jasmine. You've already incriminated him and yourself. Jasmine collapsed against the cottage wall, shaking uncontrollably. No, 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 please. Marcus lunged toward her. You betrayed me too? Daniel moved between them instantly, blocking him from reaching her. The older man stepped back toward the door. His final words were chilling. You three are none of my concern anymore. My client has what he needs. Whatever happens after this is between all of you. He walked out. Just like that, leaving us in the wreckage of broken glass, broken hearts, and broken illusions. Marcus screamed after him, come back, you can't leave me like this. But he didn't turn around. The door slammed behind him. Marcus collapsed to his knees, shaking with fury. Jasmine sobbed on the porch. Daniel slowly lowered the poker, chest rising and falling with adrenaline. And me? I stood in the middle of it all. The woman they thought would always stay quiet. The woman they once underestimated. The woman they would soon learn had one more revelation, one final truth that would change everything. I stepped forward. They both looked up, their expressions terrified. Sit down. My voice was cold, steady, unrecognizable even to me. Because I'm not done.
Daniel didn't say a word as I stepped deeper into the cottage, the broken glass crunching beneath my feet. The rain outside had calmed to a steady whisper, tapping against the windows like it was urging me forward, telling me this was the moment I had been moving toward all along, my moment of truth, my moment of release. Marcus knelt in the center of the room, shoulders heaving, hands gripping his head as if he could squeeze his life back into shape through sheer force. Jasmine stood behind him, trembling like an abandoned child, mascara streaking down her face in black rivers. The two of them, my past and my past, huddled together on the floor of the life I rebuilt without them. I inhaled slowly, letting the silence stretch until I saw them both squirm. Do either of you know, I began, what it feels like to have your soul ripped open by the people you trusted most? Neither spoke. Marcus kept his head low. Jasmine wiped her nose on her sleeve, her breath hiccuping. I thought Aunt May's house was my sanctuary, my inheritance, my one safe place in this world. And you, both of you, wanted to weaponize it against me. Jasmine whispered, barely audible, Keisha, I didn't know it would go this far. I cut her off with a look that froze her mid-sentence. You knew exactly what you were doing. She flinched, like I'd struck her. Marcus finally lifted his head, His eyes were red, wild, defiant even in defeat. I made mistakes, okay? But you didn't have to ruin my entire life. I laughed, a low, disbelieving laugh that felt strange even to my own ears. Marcus, you ruined your life the moment you thought I was disposable. He pushed himself upright, swaying slightly. If you'd just talked to me, just talked, none of this would have happened. No. If you had ever loved me, truly loved me, none of this would have happened. Daniel stepped closer to me, silent support radiating from him like a steady flame. I didn't need him to intervene, not this time. This was between me and the ghosts that had been haunting me for too long. I turned back to Jasmine. You were pregnant, I said softly, with the man I was supposed to marry. And instead of facing me like a woman, you went behind my back and laughed about it? With our parents? Jasmine squeezed her eyes shut, sobs shaking her body. I know, I was stupid. I thought he loved me, Keisha. You thought you were the chosen one, just like you always did. Her eyes snapped open, hurt, resentful, still blaming me even now. Mom and Dad always compared us. They always... And you believed them. You believed you deserved everything I worked for. Marcus sat back on his heels, staring at her with betrayal simmering beneath the surface. They were cracking, finally seeing the truth about each other now that the illusion had shattered. I reached into my coat pocket. Both of them tensed. Slowly, deliberately, I pulled out a single sheet of paper, a photocopy of the deed. Their eyes widened simultaneously. This, I held between my fingers, is the signature Marcus forged, the one Jasmine encouraged, the one you all thought I'd never find. Marcus swallowed hard. Keisha, please. I tore the paper in half. Then again, and again. The pieces drifted to the floor like snow. I don't own you. Not my house, not my life, not my future. Jasmine choked on a sob. Where am I supposed to go? Mom and Dad lost the house. Marcus lost everything. I don't have anyone. I had you, I said quietly, and you threw me away. She sank to the floor. Marcus leaned against the wall, defeated. So what now, huh? You gonna call the cops on us again? Ruin us some more? I stepped closer, so close they could feel the heat of my breath. No, I said calmly. I don't have to ruin you. I pointed toward the open door, the storm-dampened air creeping into the cottage. You did that yourselves. Marcus's face collapsed inward. Jasmine's shoulders shook with silent sobs. I straightened my spine. My life isn't tied to yours anymore. I rebuilt myself once. I will do it again and again if I have to. But you, my voice softened, strangely compassionate. You'll spend years cleaning up the wreckage of your own choices. And that has nothing to do with me. Daniel stepped beside me, placing a steady hand on my back. Keisha, he murmured, you don't owe them anything. And for the first time in years, I believed that. I turned away from Marcus and Jasmine, away from the chaos, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and stepped into the cool night air, letting the rain kiss my skin like a quiet blessing. Daniel followed. Behind us, Marcus broke down into angry, broken sobs. Jasmine wailed his name like it was the only piece of hope she had left. But I didn't look back, not once. Because some endings aren't meant to be gentle. Some endings are meant to be clean. Some endings are meant to free you. And as I walked away from the cottage, with Daniel beside me, with peace finally within reach, with my heart no longer tethered to people who never knew how to love me, I realized something powerful. Survival isn't always loud. Sometimes survival is simply choosing yourself, choosing peace, choosing freedom, choosing to walk forward. And I did, with my head high, with my future open, with my heart whole again.
If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I truly would love to know.